Yeah, I think it was the end of May this year.
Our manager quit. Our assistant manager quit. Well, she's gone missing. The printer broke. The other Santa shows up, but then he was in a car accident. A kid comes and he's like, "Oh, I'm only coming to expose Santa." What the hell? Like, it was like a miracle. Like, Christmas! Hi everyone, this is a story time about when I played an elf for Christmas. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you've been here before, I'm Inda, I'm a freelance actor on YouTube. I make regular acting videos, and hopefully I still am. I mean, you guys are probably watching this in 2022. It's 2021 right now, December 20th, and I'm filming this video 2021. And I don't know, I think it just felt right for me to upload it next year because I'm just living this moment like not quite long ago. Not quite long ago. So I became a Christmas elf for 2 days and then I quit. Let's just get into the story time. I applied to the job not thinking that I will actually get called in for an interview. I was like, I saw it on Indeed and I was like, you know what, it's probably good. It's a good confidence booster to do. So I was just like, you know what, apply. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and I'll get it. So I apply, and then I get an interview, and I'm gonna pop the clip in this Snapchat video that I took when I was sitting in the interview room outside waiting for my interview to begin. Before this, I was banging on the door to like let me in. First of all, it was so hard to find the interview place. It was in the Treaty Centre in Hounslow. I couldn't find it, but I made my way there eventually. I was banging on the door, and then this woman comes up, the interview lady, and she opens the door, and they were doing an interview inside, and I kind of like disrupted it because I was just banging on the door saying like, "Is anyone in there? Hello?" Well, I wasn't screaming that, I was just like banging on the door. And then she opened it, she said, "If you just take a seat." I was like, oh my god, we're like disrupting someone's interview, it's quite horrible. The woman lets me in, and she closes the door and continues the interview that she was doing before. I hear a couple voices, and I'm like, oh my god, is this a group interview? Like, what the hell? Like, this is my first group interview ever. So I'm like freaking out over there, like, what the hell? Like, I'm not good in like group scenarios. Like, I just get like, my social anxiety goes and zips my mouth closed. But luckily it was all fine. I go in and I'm like, oh, it's just one woman. I thought there was like a whole board of people doing the interview, doing the interviewing, but it was just one woman. And in the interview, right, so before I went in, Amelia came, who's a fellow elf. So Amelia comes in and we start talking, just, small talk, like, "Are you here for the elf position?" Yeah, cool. And then we go in and have the interview together, which I was a bit relieved that I wasn't just doing this by myself. But I mean, I could have done it by myself, but it just felt a bit more comforting to have someone there. And so we were interviewed together, and the person who interviewed us, I'm not going to give the name of her, but she basically was pretending to be a child. That's why I thought there were multiple voices in there, because I had a man speak, who was the guy getting interviewed for Santa, and then voice, and then I had, and then the woman's voice, and then obviously the kid voice that the woman was doing. So the interview consisted of, getting to know us a little bit. It started off with the "tell me about yourself" question, which I feel I cringe so hard when I say this. I'm like, yeah, I'm such a hard worker, I don't all of this stuff. You have to like big yourself up, you want the job. And then she asked me, "Do you have any experience in the performing side?" So I said, I just recently wrapped my first film. I did the course and all of this stuff, and it was like really good. Yeah, I was screened at the Odeon, and they were like, oh my god. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So, and then afterwards we had this improving part of the interview. It was so funny. Like, the woman who was interviewing us, she would pretend to be a child, and she would ask us like outlandish questions like, what does Santa do when it's not Christmas? Or like, what does Santa do when he's not helping the elves make presents and all this stuff? And it was just random questions. And we obviously as elves had to improvise and give answers. And my answers, sometimes she would laugh at, like that's so like dumb. But but afterwards they were asked like, "Why do you want this job?" And I feel like I had a really good answer for this. I said, for inclusion purposes, for commercial gains as well for the grotto, if children see elves, like people in the actual fantasy land that look like them, they would want to be part of it. They want to take pictures in the grotto. So I was like, I never had someone like that to see who looked like me. I never went to the grotto. Maybe that's why I never got taken to the grotto, because it's deemed as a white thing. I don't know, I just babbled on. And afterwards I got a call, I think a week later. It was quite early, yeah, I think a week later, and they were like, we were really, really impressed with your interview. Well, she said she was impressed with my interview, the woman interviewing. She was a really lovely lady. And she said, we want to give you the job. And I was like, oh my God, great. And then I asked her a couple questions, and then I asked her about pay. Because when I applied to the job, I applied as a assistant manager, and that pay was £10 something. And when I got there, I changed to be an elf, and then I asked her about the pay just to confirm what I was getting paid. Minimum wage, £6.30, I think, or something like that. So I was like, experience. Drop the money. If you think about money like Snoop Dogg says, you're not going to get the most out of it. So I was like, okay, whatever, experience. So I do the job. We have a training day. A month later, I started quite late on the job, like a month. I think it started early November, and I started on the 21st of November, which is a special date for me because I started my first job on that day. What was it? I don't know. So I was going on the training day. The training day was a bit disorganized. I'm not joking. I asked the person who was training us, I was like, what time do we finish? And she's like, how long is a piece of string? Okay. Yeah, so the training day went on for about 6 to 8 hours. I'm not joking, but we got paid for it, obviously. But they take a £30 deposit for your costume, and we got our costumes on that day. After receiving our costumes, we went to lunch straight after, and I was like, okay, we tried it on, we're done for putting the costumes back on, because we had previous talk of going downstairs making TikToks and stuff like that. But then I thought, okay, we're taking it off again and going to lunch, so we're probably not going to do it. But then when we come back from lunch, we're putting the costumes on again, and then we get taken down to the grotto. And when I first saw the grotto, I was a bit disappointed. I thought it was going to be bigger. I know, I just pictured a whole I don't know, snowy path leading up to Santa's house, North Pole, whatever. And it wasn't like that. It was a tiny, tiny grotto. So we enter. We were filming a TikTok to Jingle Bells. It goes, jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock, jingle bells swing and jingle bell. Yeah, so we did that. Don't copyright me for that. But yeah, so we filmed a TikTok. It was so, oh my God, I was actually traumatized filming the TikTok. I was just so embarrassed because you've never seen a turbaned elf before, and I got so in my head about this, I forgot why I did it. Inclusion, why don't we normalize this? It's not a big deal. I was making it a bigger deal in my head than it was. But yeah, so we're filming the TikTok, and then there's this turban guy, Indian guy, taking a picture of me non-stop. He just won't stop taking pictures of me, and I feel like I'm a celebrity. But so we're filming the TikTok, and I was the only guy there, and he just kept on taking pictures of me. I would turn my face this way, he'd come this way and start taking pictures of me, and it was just non-stop. Afterwards he went, but he was laughing and oh my God, ah. So we did that, and then after the training day, I'm switching it up. So I started working a month later after the training day, but the training day, when I got the job offer, I think the training day was the week next. I think that's what it was. So a month later, I started working. So they taught us how to use the tills and stuff like that. But the elf job was just to greet the parents and kids into the grotto and take the pictures and just, make a happy environment for the children. And so a month later, I go on my first shift. It's just a 3-hour shift. It started at 2 to 5. And I get there, put on my costume, there's no one there. So I just go and put on my costume. And then I was going to head down at 2:00. One of my colleagues, my other elves, come up and they're like, "Oh, you're Inda, right?" She recognized me from school, but I didn't recognize her. But she knows like one of my good friends from high school. I was like, "Yeah, oh my god, I know Sansi, you know, cool, like we're always like bestie drama partners and all this stuff." So we start talking, we go down, and before we go down, she's like debriefing me about like what's just happened. So our assistant manager quit. Well, she's gone missing. Am I like just not answering her calls? Our manager quit on the day which was supposed to be her last day working. She just didn't show up. The printer broke. Love that. And yeah, parents weren't happy because it's a £5 entry fee, and then obviously people want to buy the pictures for memory's sake. So I go down with the girl. Her name's Sneha. Love her. With the girl, and I meet the other guy, Vanch and Lavelle. So we're talking. It was just like, I just felt like out of place. Like, this is like so unproductive, because usually, and my colleagues kept on telling me like, when it's busy, like it's actually fun, just like wait out. But I was like, when I got down, I was just like, you know what, I'm quitting. Like, guys, I'm sorry, but after this, I'm like dipping. I'm like literally gonna send my resignation letter. So it just wasn't a productive day, and I don't like being unproductive. Like, believe it or not, the more when you're self-employed, you have to do everything yourself, and like if you're not making use of your time correctly or like usefully, then it's not great for you, you know? You just feel like you're not doing what you should be doing. So 3 hours go by. I didn't know what to do because it had been a month since I last did it, and the till work, it wasn't supposed to be my job, like my main job. It's supposed to be the assistant manager and the manager's job. But then, because they weren't there, everyone else had to take their roles on. So my colleagues who had been working there a bit like longer than me were on the tills, and I was just like on the side like, "Hi, Christmas." And I promise you I was a good elf, but yeah, it just wasn't it. Was the Santa there? We had a Santa there as well. And parents were a bit like, when's the other Santa coming? That's his understudy. He didn't look like Santa, but acting, you know, creating the magic of Christmas, that's how they hire people as well. But we did have a Santa who actually looked like Santa, but he was an asshole, and I'll get to that in a minute. So 3 hours go by. It's freezing. Because the doors for the shopping centre are right, like, in front of the grotto. Like, it's quite far apart, but, like, how it's positioned. So the doors are here and the grotto is here. So, like, when the door opens, which is all the time because people are always coming in, the cold breeze always hits us. So we do that. It's freezing. 3 hours go by, and I'm telling the guys, like, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna quit, like, after this. And they're like, they're still telling me to wait out. I'm like, I don't know, you know. And then I tell Lavelle that I'm gonna quit, one of my other colleagues, my elf colleagues. And she's like, well, why were you going so hard in the interview? So in the training day, there was this where we were like preparing for like how the visits would take place. Like, you'd meet them at the tills and then take them to the grotto. And I went a bit, well, I didn't just jump out of the box. I leaped out of the box. I started telling Santa, I was a dissenter, so a non-believer of Christmas and Santa Claus. I was pretending to be a child. And I was like, you're not Santa Claus. My parents told me that they buy the presents and you're just a fib and all of this stuff. And, you know, you're just a fable and all of this stuff. You know, I just start like going at Santa. And this is the Santa that actually looks like Santa, which after everything that happened with this Santa, I didn't feel bad about doing. But yeah, I was just preparing him, and God, I prepared him. Like, the universe is crazy. So I'm like to him, and then he was a bit like gobsmacked, like, what the hell, what is this person doing? And everyone else in the room is just a bit like, they were all a bit shook. And I was like, sorry guys, I think I just went a little bit overboard, and they're just like, okay. You see what I mean? No. But yeah, so after the 3 hours shift, oh my god, I'm delaying this story so much. After 3 hours is done, I'm on the bus with one of my other elf colleagues, and we're just talking, whatever. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna think about it, and you know, if I make the decision to leave, I'll message you, you know, on Instagram, because we follow each other on Instagram. So the day comes, I get home, an hour later, I just send my resignation letter. I believe a successful person knows, no, a person, how am I going to phrase this? It's a good thing to know when to quit and when to, you know, keep going with something. So it wasn't something that was giving me what I needed. You know, I needed something to stimulate my brain and, you know, give me a new experience. The 3 hours didn't do that for me. So I sent my resignation letter. I didn't hear anything back. I think 2 days later or a week later, I called up head office and I was like, did you get my resignation letter to the woman who interviewed me? I was like, can you please refer me to her? And they were like, yeah. And then she was like, yeah, I did get it. And in the email that I wrote, sending my resignation letter, I was like, I can work my last shift, which is Saturday. And then I called, while I was on the phone a week later, I think it was, I was like to her, yeah, does it still mean that I need to do my last Saturday shift? And she was like, well, it would really be helpful if you could do it. And I was like, you know what? They're telling me to give it another shot. I'm just going to give it another shot. So I could have just backed out completely and left that to be my last experience of the job. But I'm so glad I didn't. So I do my last shift, and bear in mind this is my last shift. I didn't go back, spoiler alert. But how I ended it on the biggest high, because afterwards I did feel a bit like, you know what, I could have done that a bit more. I could have done a couple more shifts, but I'm glad I ended it on a high. Every time someone asks me, I'm like, I'm glad I ended it on a high, even though I only worked 2 days. But this shift, the last one, was 8 hours, my longest shift ever. So I get there, the printer's working. We have a manager. She was so lovely. What's her name? I forgot her name. Naj. She's such a lovely woman. Yeah, so I had like 2 of my colleagues. I had a new colleague as well. Her name was Rashmi. She was lovely. And then I had Lavelle. And yeah, it was so fun. Like, we were making snow globes, doing the whole shebang. You know, I didn't do any of that on my 3-hour shift because the printer was broken, so there was no need to like cut up stuff and, you know, make the ornaments and stuff. But it was so fun. But we had the real Santa on that day. Now, the real Santa, in the morning, I regret doing this, but I was boosting his ego. I was like, no, have you tried out for casting calls or anything like that? Like, you actually look like Santa, like you would book a lot of roles. And he was like, oh, no, all of this stuff. Like, I thought he was like a nice chap, you know. When on the training day, I didn't really vibe with him. I don't know, there was something just giving me a bit like off vibes from him. But then like talking to him one-on-one in the morning of my last shift, it was alright.
That's what really gets me. That's why I wanted to change the 8 hours.
Yeah, because that's too long sitting for 8 hours. Yeah.
Can't make them see that, because they don't ever do it themselves. They don't know what it's like.
Then afterwards, the other Santa who was supposed to replace him at 1 o'clock didn't show up. And none of us know what happened because we're not in contact with the other Santa. You know, like head office or a manager was supposed to tell us like what to do. So this Santa doesn't show up for his shift. And then the other Santa has to leave at 1. So it's 1, he goes upstairs, and we thought he's going to change and just go home because he's done his bit. He doesn't, you know, go home. And then he comes down at 2 o'clock, an hour after he was supposed to go home. And that was supposed to be the break period where there was a switch and like we could have lunch and whatever, the elves. But he comes down at 2 o'clock and starts being rude to me and the other elves. He's like, oh, did you not think to tell me? I thought you were going to come and get me upstairs and all this stuff. Like, such a rude tone. He was so rude to my other colleague, Rashmi. And it wasn't even her fault because like none of us had contact with the other Santa. So he comes down at 2 o'clock. He's like, And then Lavelle, who, like, you know, she's gonna say what's on her mind. She goes, well, what made you think that you should stay up there after your shift's done? And he was like, oh, I have a duty to all these kids who create Christmas, but your duty was done at 1 o'clock. You know, like, go home. But the other Santa shows up, but then he was in a car accident with a bus. The bus just rear-ended him. It wasn't like a big accident, but obviously I get how it could be a bit traumatic. But he comes and then he stays there for an hour. And by the time, so 2 o'clock, I go on my break. Or like just over 2 o'clock, I got like 2:05, I like leave for my break. So I see the other Santa upstairs. I'm like, oh my God, I heard like you in an accident. Are you okay? Like all of this stuff. And he was really lovely. You know, we chatted like for the whole of my break. But it's fine, even though I wanted to be a bit quiet. But it's fine, we chatted. I showed him the trailer for Bucky. And yeah, he's quite a talkative character, but he's nice. Like, he's respectful, not like the other Santa. And then, so I go upstairs just to like change to be a bit more incognito, you know, because I'm wearing an elf costume. I don't want to go to wherever I'm getting my food from to look like an elf. Like, paparazzi are everywhere, you know. I sound like the biggest douchebag in this video. But so I changed my clothes, and then I'm talking to the other Santa upstairs, and he's like, can you tell the Santa that's down there, the one who's been there since the morning, that if he could continue his part of the shift, that just complete it, please, because he's a bit shaken up. And then I go down to confirm it with the guy, okay? This guy's an asshole. And I'm like to him, the other Santa said, if you don't mind, could you please stay for the duration of his shift was supposed to last to? And he's like, yeah, I know, he already told me that. I'm sorry, I'm just delivering a message and getting a confirmation. Why are you coming at me with this attitude? Yeah, I already know, he already told me. Oh, sit your ass down. Excuse me? I was so like annoyed that this guy thought he could talk to me like that. Like, I'm just delivering a message. Don't shoot the messenger, sir. And then oh my God, there's so many bits of this Santa which pissed me off. When we got down, this is my first shift, and Rushmi's first shift as well, ever, like, properly, where we had to do everything from start to finish. So we're paying all the sacks out. I have a whole TikTok about this. Follow me on TikTok, in the axe. I have vlogged like the last day. We're paying all the sacks out, and he's like, oh, don't put it there, all of this stuff, just making a big deal about everything. Like, we're doing it like for purposely so we can reach it and all of this stuff. He's like, don't put it there, all of this stuff. And then we get our first parent and child, and we're trying to obviously deliver the magic of Christmas. Gosh, this guy wasn't having it. This Santa wasn't having it. He was like, can I get a word in, please? Can I get a word in, please? We were debriefing on the training day that elves, as much as this as a wholesome experience with the elves and the Santa being the collective experience, this is mainly about Santa. Okay, we got that. But we were just introducing the kids. Do you want to see Santa? Do you know what you want to get Santa? Just preparing them like they taught us. And this guy wasn't having it. He was just like, can I get a word in, please? Can I get a word in, please? Like, oh my God. Like, do you want us to do that? Just stare at the kids like what the hell? He was an asshole, like the biggest one. Like, oh my God, I'm getting annoyed thinking about it. So we're doing all of this, taking the photos, and he like slowly like starts to like just not talk to us, the Santa, which, okay, fine, you know what, we're doing our own conversation, so like we don't really need to talk to Santa. Only when there's like a child or parent to come, then, you know, introduce him to the guy. Santa, look who's here to see you, look, Jason's here to see you, whatever. But he was just not it. Like, his attitude stank, and he was just horrible. Like, yeah, he might look the part, but looks can be deceiving, because he actually, and then I took a picture with him as well, because I wanted some memorabilia of this job, you know. I took one at the start on the training day, but I wasn't with Santa. So I take a picture with him, and it was quite ugly, but I was going to print it off anyways and take it home. But after his attitude, I was just like, you know what, I don't want it. Just never mind, because I don't want a memory of that person. Ugh, disgusting. But the way he spoke to Rashmi really annoyed me, because Rashmi didn't do anything. Like, it was her birthday. Why are you coming at her with such bitterness? Like, the shift ends. Oh, why am I dwelling on the badness? Sorry, guys. I want to talk about the good things that happened there. So it ended on a high, except from those moments with Santa. We actually had really fun. Like, there were so many kids there. They were like, oh my god, I'm so excited to see Santa, all of this stuff. But let me go back to the bit where I was being the dissenter in the training day with that Santa, the rude one. So a kid comes and he's like, oh, I'm only coming to expose Santa. I'm only coming to expose Santa. And I'm just over there like, gosh, did I manifest this for Santa? Did I manifest this for this day? Yes, I did. I prepared him because that kid came in and was telling Santa, oh, you're fake, all of this stuff. That's when I did it for my break, but I just like caught like a glimpse of that. It was so funny because I saw him like outside near the tills. He was like, oh, I'm going to Santa only to expose him. I know he isn't real, but I just want a present and all of this stuff. Gosh, that kid was something. There was such lovely kids over there. Like, besides, he was funny, but like, he was a bit odd. But there was this. I want to talk about this one experience that I had. So I was taking one of the parents and kids to the grotto, inside the grotto, to meet Santa. And there were 2 children, but only one of them went inside. The other girl, she didn't go inside. And I tried telling the mum, like, Mum, do you want to try convincing the daughter to come in? Your daughter to come in? And she was like, no, she just won't go in. She just won't go in. And I think she had a disability of some sort. I'm not going to say, like, it as a fact or anything, but I think she had a disability. So the other sister goes in, meets Santa, all of this stuff, and it's all fun and games. Like, we just didn't even try with the other one because the mum said she just won't go in. Like, I know her, she just won't go in. So we're wrapping up that the other door experience with Santa, and as she's coming out, it took a while. I think, I don't know, the visit is 5 minutes. So Santa's like, goodbye, and she's like, bye Santa, and the mum literally like broke down. Like, she's like, oh my god, that her kid spoke. It was just one of the most like surreal and like enchanting experiences of that job. Like, watching that kid, it was like the kid never spoke before, and maybe that kid had like a disability, I don't know, some sort of disability, but the way the mum reacted to the daughter just waving, saying, bye Santa, it was just like, what the hell? Like, it was like a miracle. Like, it just felt so like surreal and enchanting, and I will always remember that moment. The mum, she was literally like, I just, like, she was like stunned for words. And then afterwards I was like, miss, if you just go over there and stand, wait to take your pictures home and all of that stuff. And she's like, yeah, like, she was so happy. Like, she was a bit like coming into the grotto, like, you know, like just tired and like, mum, you know, but she was so happy after that visit, and it just brought so much joy. Like, I was just like, this is why we do this, because it was actually crazy. Like, I've never seen such a experience. It was like a movie scene. Like, what the hell? Like, just beautiful. We made a lot of money for the grotto that day, like a lot, because we took a lot of walk-ins in, and we weren't supposed to. Like, we were supposed to keep it mainly online bookings. Well, you can do the odd occasionally walk-in bookings if it's not busy, but even when we were busy, we were taking like 1 or 2 walk-in bookings, which, you know, generates a lot of money, especially if they're buying photos afterwards and packages. So we did pretty well on the monetary side of things. Not making it though for ourselves. Anyways, back to the experience. What else? It was just a magical experience. Like, I really enjoyed like making snow globes and ornaments. I have footage for that. I'm gonna pop in some random elf day footage of working as an elf. Here you are, guys. Okay, guys. My first day playing an elf, and I want to quit already. and I am going to soon. Here's my outfit. You're welcome. Guys, we are making...
Oh my days.
What? Miss Christmas. Got you. Is that it?
Yep.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Last day being enough, and I love it because I had such a good day, and it will get better. I'm gonna end this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed that little footage. You know, even though there were a lot of things that didn't go so well, that could have been resolved with just a bit of kindness, it was a great experience, and I really, really enjoyed my last day. I think it was quite awesome. You know, I got the good and the bad, but I loved the good, and the good definitely outweighed the bad. And I'm not mad that I quit after 2 days. I'm happy, you know. I'm happy, and I'm working another job, so keeping myself busy, and I still got into acts always and forever in my heart. That's it for me, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button. If you want more story times, you just need to comment that down below, and I will tell you. You know, I got a couple I could talk about. That's it for me, guys. I will see you guys very soon. Greater things always to come. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye, guys.